Yo, I am impressed. I am very, very impressed with this car right here. This is the Tesla Model 3, the 2024 refresh. A lot of people are calling it Highland. That's not actually in the name, but this car, I've only been testing it for maybe a week now, but I've noticed a lot of little things different. The main way you're gonna be able to tell this car different from the already very popular Model 3 that's out is the new distinctive angular headlights, the new point to your face. But there's a lot more that's new to this car that sort of add up to me to feel like honestly a worthy flagship. I know the Model S is, higher end and it has the plaid variant and all the performance and all that fun stuff, but this is the car that people are going to know and see the most often as a Tesla. It's the Model 3 and the Model Y. So you could argue this is their most important car, and it kind of feels now like a mini Model S.
Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Nick M and John M. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Tesla just announced on WeChat that the Model Y out of Shanghai is finally going to get hardware 4. So these vehicles will join the Model S and X globally, as well as the Model Y from other regions. Tesla has tried to keep which vehicles actually have hardware 4 and hardware 3 somewhat under wraps, but as far as we know, the Model 3 Plus does indeed have hardware 4. The hardware 4 update turned out to be not as crucial as we were thinking it would be for some time, mostly because of this post from Elon last summer when he said hardware 4 software will lag hardware 3 by at least another 6 months, as our focus needs to be on getting FSD on hardware 3 working super well and provided internationally. However, in the Chinese market, one of the most common complaints against Tesla is that they don't refresh or update their vehicles enough, especially relative to the rest of the competition, so this is something that Tesla will be able to market as a semi-upgrade. It's true that in North America, all hardware for vehicles have FSD beta if of course that customer has paid for it. It's just we now know that hardware 4 is not going to be required to operate full autonomy in the future. Hardware 3 will be capable enough, according to Elon and Tesla. This one did not take long at all. Elon said the public vote is unequivocally in favor of Texas. Tesla will move immediately to hold a shareholder vote to transfer state of incorporation to Texas. If you've been on X the past few days, it's clear as day that Elon's been very frustrated with what happened in Delaware, and we know that he does not play games, so this should be no surprise. I did find this. The Texas governor last year signed legislation to create the Texas Business Court to hear commercial cases worth more than $5 or $10 million, depending on the type of dispute. Specialized state and federal courts are not unusual in the US, but in business matters, Delaware and New York state law remain preeminent. Texas advocates, however, believe they can not only build from scratch a court to challenge the incumbents, but it's a worthy use of their resources to do so. Over the past 2 years, Texas has seen a big influx of corporations moving their headquarters or operations to the state due to lower taxes, cheap worker housing, and minimal regulation. The goal of this new court is to, over time, build a respected case law where precedent decisions demonstrate sound legal reasoning. This chart from the Financial Times show that of current Fortune 500 companies, the overwhelming majority are domiciled in Delaware. Critics in Texas of the new court have worried that it may tilt too sharply towards corporate interests and that its creation may even violate the state constitution. And while Texas has tried to promote a pro-business landscape, its Republican leaders have simultaneously prioritized public attacks on corporate moves on ESG issues, as well as supporters in business of DEI initiatives. Today on X, Elon said, change your state of incorporation out of Delaware before they lock the doors. They're currently blocking John Malone from changing incorporation from Delaware to Nevada. Elon was asked Nevada or Texas, to which Elon said, for most companies, Nevada. Tesla is physically headquartered in Texas, so it makes sense for us. I think most of us already have a feeling of how this vote is going to go, despite the fact that, again, 99% of people really have no idea which way is actually better for Tesla. The problem is, even if Tesla were to lay out a detailed pros and cons list for Texas and Delaware on this proxy statement, it's not a scientific decision. It's more like choosing a spouse or a partner. There are many different factors to consider, and oftentimes it's really not black or white. Even for topics you think may be straightforward, like corporate tax in Delaware is 8.7%, whereas in Texas, corporate tax is 0%. But the problem with that, it fails to consider things like excise taxes, franchise taxes. Ultimately though, as a shareholder, you have to ask yourself, would you want Tesla to remain in Delaware where your vote has the ability to be overturned by a judge in the future? It's true that Tesla moving to Texas doesn't guarantee that that will never happen again, but from everything I'm reading, it does indeed seem at least less likely than if Tesla were to remain in Delaware. Lastly, to zoom us all back out and see the bigger picture, whether Tesla is incorporated in Delaware, Texas, Nevada, in the long run, it's not going to have an outsized impact on their ability to become the most valuable company in the world. A few years from now, this will most likely just be another footnote in Tesla's storied history. All of that said, I do hope that Tesla at least provides us with a moderate amount of information to consider for us to make an informed vote. This one will be very interesting to watch in the weeks ahead. The lawyers who represented the plaintiff in this case against the board and Elon are in line for a record-breaking payout worth potentially billions of dollars. These lawyers have said that they could ask the Delaware Court of Chancery to pay them up to 1/3 of the benefit conferred by the ruling. In other words, how much value was restored to shareholders. The decision on the fees or the pay package must also be sound enough to survive any appeal that Tesla may make to the Delaware Supreme Court. The lead lawyer for the plaintiff in this case, Greg Verallo, said it could be a few weeks before his side submitted its fee request. The highest fee ever awarded to plaintiffs' lawyers in the Delaware Chancery Court was $285 million in 2012, which was about 15% of the damages in a lawsuit. The word is, these lawyers could end up taking fees in Tesla shares. Interesting because on one hand, we have Judge McCormick saying that Elon, the richest man in the world, which by the way, in 2018, he actually wasn't, saying that his pay package was way too big, not fair. If she goes ahead and approves a fee for the lawyers of the plaintiff, that's potentially an order of magnitude bigger than the highest pay fee they've ever seen before. Let's just say at least some people will be up in arms. Now the word is Tesla is going to enable the adaptive headlight functionality for legacy Model 3 vehicles and Model Ys in Europe. We just saw this feature rolling out to some Model 3 Plus vehicles. Now it looks like some older Model 3s with the Matrix headlights are set to get this adaptive functionality along with some Model Ys. I've seen a lot of people online argue the reason this adaptive headlight functionality has not rolled out to the United States is because NHTSA has not allowed this feature. I'm pretty sure that's not correct though. If you go back to February 2022, this is directly from NHTSA. The U.S. Department of Transportation's NHTSA issued a final rule today allowing automakers to install adaptive driving beam headlights on new vehicles. The amendments adopted today are intended to allow manufacturers to offer this technology and establish performance requirements for these systems to ensure that they operate safely. The easiest way to tell if your Tesla has Matrix-style headlights is to see if it has this large round bulb. If it does, then yes, you have Matrix headlights. We know that dealers have significant sway over the OEMs, with GM now bringing some hybrids to the North American market in the next 2 years. These same car dealers are now saying they're worried the current administration is forcing the industry to move too far ahead of market demand with EVs. This sentiment, the administration is moving too fast with EVs, was shared by 83% of dealer feedback. The dealers are still pushing back strongly against the proposal that might be finalized as soon as March this year when it comes to future tailpipe emissions. 55% of the dealers surveyed said EVs were not generating customer interest or sales. One said, "It's not a range issue or a tech issue. Based on our experience, it's been the ability of the selling dealer to provide a good service on that EV and meet the expectations of the early adopter to that technology. It seems like that's where it's fallen short." Another had a comment on the $7,500 tax credit going to point of sale, saying the restrictions on the sticker price, the buyer income, and the battery sourcing I think it will actually do nothing, meaning the tax credit may not move the needle as much as some had been expecting. Several dealership executives have been urging the OEMs to focus on affordable hybrids. For the EV transition, it's not exactly what you'd want to hear, but when it comes to Tesla continuing to earn more market share, this is certainly a positive development. Speaking of those hybrids coming from GM, we still don't know any details, but we do now know that they're not expected before 2025 at the earliest. This year, GM plans to produce and wholesale 200,000 to 300,000 Ultium-based EVs in North America, which has officially been added to the prediction tracker. We will cover this once at least a few of these have reached an actual outcome. The configurator for the Model 3 and Y is now officially live in Chile, and they have this little kiosk set up. Rohan Patel said huge excitement and growth potential for EVs, superchargers, and solar and storage across the continent. Tesla team is fired up to help accelerate sustainable energy and transport. The light vehicle market in Chile does about 300,000 units per year, so if Tesla can eventually carve out roughly a 10% market share, that would be about 30,000 units in annual TAM from this market for Tesla. Tesla has achieved its success from habits, constant innovation, risk-taking, first principles thinking. Honestly, the game of life is no different. No hacks, no shortcuts. We simply become the habits we develop. One of my daily habits has been trying to give my body the nutrients that it needs, and AG1, the sponsor of this video, has made that a lot easier. Listen, over the past 3 years, I've had some pretty unfortunate things happen to me health-wise that have been really out of my control. It's just now that I'm finally starting to feel like myself again, and I'm not going to make any proclamations other than stay tuned. There are so many AG1 copycats out there now, and I've looked into some of them, but with Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia on the advisory board of AG1, that's always given me confidence that it's backed by science and research. They have all of the independent testing in place, so you can actually be confident what's on the label is what you're getting. I'd bet some of you guys would agree the past few weeks it has seemed like everybody has been getting sick. I just want to say, so far, I have not. Seriously though, AG1 has essential vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced antioxidants like zinc and citrus bioflavonoids to support our immune systems. Also, if you've never looked into some of the benefits of rhodiola, I would encourage you to do so, and yes, AG1 has it. Truth is, you trying AG1 really is a great way to support the channel, and if you're interested, if you use my link below, you can get 5 travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2 for free. Enjoy. A mine developer, Talon Metals, has received approval to drill on public land in Michigan. Talon Metals can now explore for nickel deposits across 23,000 acres. Talon has agreed to supply Tesla with 165 million pounds of nickel from its Tamarack mine in Minnesota. Jumping to that project, last year Talon submitted plans for an underground nickel and copper mine, launching an environmental review of a project that could become a domestic source of metals for EVs. But that could be a lengthy process, and the federal government has already stopped 2 potential copper and nickel mines in Minnesota last year alone, citing that the risk of contamination was too great for the projects to be built. Even if Talon's project in Minnesota gets approved, it could then take 18 months to actually build the mine. Back to Talon's Michigan project, their aim is to try to discover new high-grade nickel and copper mineralization in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, currently the only region with a nickel mine in the United States. Remember, the one in Minnesota is not yet established. So yes, it's encouraging to hear that Talon can now at least start exploring in Michigan, but even if they were to find some resources, the next phase will be getting approval to actually set up a mine, which could take another few years and will most likely face a lot of pushback from people in the area. It's unfortunate because everybody at the top is saying how important it is to decouple our reliance on other countries, but when push comes to shove to do what needs to be done to make that happen, so far it just has not been working out. For my margin trackers out there, Tesla China is currently offering about $1,100 off inventory Model Y vehicles. For the first time, Tesla will have a few of its vehicles at the Chicago Auto Show. Tesla will join the pack on the indoor test track for EVs. Visitors will be able to take a test ride in the Model 3 Y and X. Going to their website, it will be a Model 3 Plus. The show will be held from February 10th to the 19th. 6 years ago, in 2017, Volvo spun off Polestar to be a standalone performance EV brand. Fast forward to today, and Volvo has now decided that they're basically done supporting and funding Polestar altogether. Going forward, Volvo will stop funding Polestar, and they're handing responsibility for the struggling luxury car brand over to Geely. Right now, Volvo owns about 48% of Polestar shares, but they have already said they're going to be divesting at least some. They just have not announced how much. Geely already came out and said that they will continue to provide full operational and financial support to Polestar going forward. Just last week, we talked about Polestar job layoffs. We talked about how they said they were not going to get involved in this price war. They wanted to remain a luxury player, and since making that decision last year, they have missed their sales targets. The latest we've heard, Polestar was aiming to become cash flow break even by 2025. Some analysts are arguing that Polestar should just be folded up into Geely. Analysts have been complaining that Volvo's stake in Polestar has been a drag on Volvo's own resources, having provided roughly $1 billion in funding to Polestar. Instead, Volvo will concentrate its financial resources on its own needs. Volvo's CEO said, "I'm still bullish on EVs, but I'm also bullish on the fact that we have a very strong plug-in electric hybrid lineup." Certainly kind of a bummer. Some of you may recall that my second favorite EV brand behind Tesla was actually Polestar. I really liked their styling and their ethos and what they were trying to do, but it is a cutthroat world out there in EV land, and I'd be the first person to admit that the value for Polestar vehicles is really not great. It's encouraging to hear Geely quickly come out and say that they'll continue to give them funding and support their operation. Hopefully they can get another 3 to 5 years to try to figure things out. We'll see. An EU draft has been leaked when it comes to their 2040 renewable energy targets, and battery energy storage is a key element of that draft. The EU is targeting 90% renewable electricity by 2040 in the EU and sees battery energy storage as one of several key areas of investment to get there. If you head to the Tesla China configurator, you will see that Quicksilver is now available in Shanghai as a paint color. Tesla stock closed the day at $188.86, up 0.84%, while the Nasdaq was up 1.3%. Very low volume day for Tesla stock, trading about 18 million shares below the average 30-day volume. As you may expect, Polestar had a tough day, down over 15%. All time, Polestar is down 81.7%.
But for the non-performance version, which this is, it's complete. It's great. It's a flagship. It's a mini Model S. It's refined. It's well built. I'm very impressed by this new Model 3.
Don't forget, check out AG1 linked below if you're interested. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.